look down at the gray deck, and I saw this little bit of a thing wiggling. Almost looked like a mosquito larvae. And I said, can't be a baby lobster, can it? And sure enough, it was. So I brought it home, put it in the watch glass, and then took some close-up photographs of that. You hear about these, but they actually see one. And I think a lot of these drop out of the traps. This one was in the bait bag area, probably. When I hauled the trap over, just dropped out and settled on the deck. But most of the time, they go unnoticed. And this little lobster, wow, my time to already. And the lobster colors are just beautiful. You take time to actually study the different colors in the lobster's shell. I've seen every color in the visible light spectrum in the lobster shell. If you look carefully, you can see some blues on the undersides. Look how pretty this is. And the lobster that just the shed of the shell has about the most vivid colors. Does anybody have an idea what's significant about these claws or the picture itself? Anybody want to take a guess? No? Well, you see this, the white marks at the edge of the claws? See this? Lobstermen, this means something. The lobster. This means that the lobsters are on the move. And what we do, we call these claws traveler's claws. Traveler's claws. And what happens when the lobster's moving, he's dragging these claws on the bottom of the rod. It'll actually wear the pigment out along the edges. So you often see this especially in the fall of the year, lobsters start moving again. Some lobstermen refer to these claws as scruffy claws, but most of them call them traveler's claws. And lobsters grow by shedding their old shells. And obviously, it's quite a feat to be able to squeeze out of this old shell. So one of the first noticeable stages of this molting or shedding process is the top of the body will actually crack right down the middle like that. And lobstermen call these split backs. And at this stage, the female lobster will give off a pheromone. So I've talked to several lobsters, especially offshore lobstermen. They say, when you get these splitbacks in the traps, they almost act as a bait to large male lobsters. So what will happen too, this side of the carapace will split off, and then that one. And then the lobster will actually squeeze out of its claws. It'll shrink, expel water, and then it'll actually, expel right out of the old shell, and then the last part will be the tail, and then the little walking legs. Amazing, just amazing. And this goes on, this thing, year after year out there, under the water. One of the things that you can't see from the surface. Anyone have an idea what happened here to this lobster?
Striped bass ate it.
What's that?
The striped bass bit it.
No. Shell disease. You hear about this, you probably read about shell disease. And this is very common from Cape Cod south, especially off Rhode Island and Long Island. And what happens, this is just caused by microorganisms that eat the material in the shell, the chitin, and they'll actually honeycomb this. It's almost like corrosion and metal corrosion, same type thing. So these creatures are eating the chitin in the shell. And just about 2 weeks ago, I caught one lobster that had extremely bad shell disease, just about all over its exoskeleton. And the shell disease was so bad, you could actually squeeze in the side of the lobster. It was soft and rubbery. You could actually poke your finger right through it. And what happens this shell disease afflicts lobsters who either been injured or their resistance is down. You know, it's out there, but the real healthy lobsters can fight it off. Now this particular lobster, if it sheds, it will shed this shell disease, the old shell and shed disease off after a while. There was, about 3 years ago, there were a lot of these shell disease losses. Last year, you know, very, very few, same through the summer. And here are some of the other unusual things about lobsters. You know, the unusual color ones. Blue, this is Frank Davis, a rockport lobsterman. Yeah, blue. And the interesting thing about this, some of the different colored lobster shells are caused by genetics, and others it's caused by diet, a dietary deficiency. I've known lobstermen who caught a blue lobster, and they've contained this thing in a, what we call as a crate, lobster crate or car, and then fed it a regular diet, and within 2 weeks, the lobster color started changing towards a normal color. Yeah. And this is one of the most rarest unusual lobster colorations. And this lobster was trapped just like that off the coast of Maine 3 years ago. And the lobsterman donated to the state of Maine. And I know the scientist at the particular lab, and I asked her for a copy of this photograph. This is called a bicolored lobster, extremely rare. This is just as rare as the albino, the white lobster. But there's, you know, they're out there. And that's the natural color. Half of it, the red and green. We went through this during the rehearsal, so be patient. Either that or I'll have to draw. I'll have to substitute a draw, so I don't know if they'll come out. Now, lobsters are pretty clever creatures, and they'll make their own homes. Now, this shot was taken at a lobster pond from the dock looking down during the wintertime in the early spring when the water's very cold. But this is the same thing that happens in the harbors and so forth. The lobsters will actually make homes or little depressions in the bottom. These are called dishes, just like your kitchen dishes. And see what happens. It gives them some protection. Because the lobster's most powerful part is the tail. They always want to protect that, face up with the claws. Next 3 shots will show some of the lobster's predators. And codfish are one of the lobster's top predators out there. And there used to be huge schools of codfish, especially large cod like that, and they would swim along. If the lobsters are out on a smooth bottom, this is just what they'd be doing, swimming along, picking them up like that, eating them. And then striped bass. Somebody mentioned striped bass. Yeah, this is going to be, I would say, the biggest threat to lobsters around here now, striped bass. And Ronnie's nodding his head. He's seen what bass do, because lobsters instinctively go to the shallows during the summertime to shed their shells. And in this state, they're very vulnerable. The shallows used to be safe during the summertime, but now that's just where the striped bass lurk. And I've actually seen a bass swim in water so shallow, they'll ground out their bellies, and the tops, their dorsal fin will break the water. They'll go in the water that shallow to get at minnows and green crabs and probably lobsters too. So the lobster really doesn't have much of a chance when it goes down. And I know for a fact that bass just have a tremendous impact on the baby lobsters, especially. I don't know if anybody read the article I did this summer.
Yeah.
What some of the observations of Folly Cove. Unbelievable. And these are the lobsters. The baby ones are the few that actually made it down to the bottom. Out of the thousands of eggs, only a small percentage will make it to the bottom. These are the future. These are the ones that actually made it to the bottom. And then now they're getting gobbled up by a lot of the bass. So it's going to get interesting in the near future. And the bass numbers are just exploding out there. They're protected. Now we'll take a look at some of the people, some of the actual lobstermen. This man has passed away, and this was the oldest Maine lobsterman back in the late 1990s. I went up to Beals Island, Maine, and this is Millard Crowley. And he actually had the longest held Maine lobster license. I think it was 84 or 86 years. After that, he passed away around 2000 at age 100. But what an experience, and it was such an experience to actually meet and talk with him. And that's the other extreme. Jason Paulson lives in Langston. That's his grandson Colby. This was taken a couple years ago. He's interested in lobstering. Yeah. Look at that, huh? And this is an old Ames Cove shot. George Murray Sr., who has since passed away. And this is the old style lobster trap, wooden buoys. Ronnie can remember, we used to, before we set these traps, we'd soak them off the wharf. Because otherwise the wood, it took a while for that to get water on. We'd bubble and the trap would float and rocks in there and soak it off the wharf before you set them. And that's the senior Pigeon Cove Harbor lobsterman, Dick Olson, who's still lobstering. Lobsterman's hand, yours truly, working hand. And these are some different harbor and at-sea shots, what you see. Lobstermen are very lucky. We're out there so much of the time and get to witness some of nature's beautiful moments. That's one of them. This is salvages, dry salvages, sunrise off of Rockport. The shape of these rocks is beautiful to begin with. Red skies in the morning, sailors take warning. So many omens. You look at the sky.
Saving Cape Ann. Yes. So if you in your spare time, in between shows, if you ever want to go to a cool website, go to savecapeann.com, and you will see my friend and camera guy, Greg B. Smith. He designed this page, and it's a great site.
Hi, this is Greg B. Smith, and you're watching Saving Cape Ann on Channel 12.